Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Justina.
And this is
Just So You Know.
It's so good to see you.
I know. We are such little girls whenever we see each other. We're like, or we just like act like we never left each other.
Yeah.
I was at the coffee shop and Jamie comes in and she's just like, "Is things in here?" And she starts talking to me. I'm like, "Hello, hi."
This coffee shop reeked of fecal matter.
I didn't think so. I think Jamie brought her shit with her.
I kind of did because a bird pooped on me. And so there was shit on my coat.
The disrespect. Well, you know, they say when a bird poops on you, that means money is coming your way.
Money?
Yeah.
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah, literally, whenever I booked like my first big role, a bird, right when I was trying to like, my last audition happened. I went outside, I sat in the park, and I was like, oh my God, I really hope I get this. And a bird shit in my head, and I was like, oh. I was like, yeah. And then I did it again. I was like, yes, shit on me.
And then you found out you got the role.
And then I got the part.
Okay, I love how this episode has turned into us talking about poop and people, birds, shitting, and coffee shops smelling like shit. But this episode
is not about
that. Today we are tumbling into the world of circuses. We're going to talk about what they are, how they started, and the dirty secrets some circuses in particular have tried to hide.
This is the greatest show.
Yeah. So, Justina, I don't know how you feel about circuses. Well, I can take a guess, but I believe that this show is the only circus and the only spectacle that should be allowed to be this wild.
I agree. I like seeing people do crazy shit.
Yeah.
The moment I see animals doing crazy shit, I'm instantly concerned.
My first fact is that I can juggle.
That's cool. I don't know how that has anything to do with the circus. But she can. She actually really can. I used to know juggle.
Just so you know, if you need a circus performer, instead of using animals, you can just use me.
There you go. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I'm actually, it's scary. I'm actually pretty good at juggling.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We had to learn it when I was taking, it was a class at my high school. I went to a performing arts high school called LaGuardia, and we had combat classes and tap classes, and I was horrible at everything except juggling.
You were like, wait, I got this one. I mean, that it makes sense. In your life, you juggle so much. So, like, you have that skill of being like, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Before World War I, this is my next fact, the famous Ringling Brothers, you guys have probably heard of them, they actually employed more than 1,000 people. They owned nearly 350 horses.
No,
poor babies.
that's a lot.
More than 26 elephants and 16 camels. And you wonder, how do you get a wild animal that is that big to do things?
I used to wonder that all the time. I used to be like, how the heck? What do they do?
Well, there's a few different tactics, and we'll get into more detail later on in this episode. But one of the things that they do is they deprive them of food. And they abuse them. They use bull hooks.
The sticks. With
and
the
whips.
The prings. Yeah, the whips. Ugh,
and
horrible.
The only time I always say this, that whips should ever be used, is when it's consensual. And two people consent. Or more, I mean.
Whoa. Jamie is on a roll today.
And they should be pleather, just saying.
Yeah, hello. You better say that part.
Okay. Not mine. Also, just to add on to my fact about the Ringling Brothers employing people, they needed 92 railroad cars to travel around, and Barnum and Bailey's circus was actually even bigger. Circuses actually used to get a lot of criticism even back in the day. I think even in like the 1900s, when the church was mad that people were spending money on entertainment
instead of the church,
instead of religious pursuits.
I'm done. I'm done with the church.
Isn't that funny?
Like, don't you give them the money, give us the money. I'm like, I'm pretty sure God doesn't need the money, but
yeah, they said that's enough money to sustain 3 missionaries for a year. I'm like, okay, bro.
You're like, who invited you? Go over there. You should be liberating the animals, not talking about money.
No. Yeah, that's the thing. They weren't actually were concerned about the animal abuse. They're like, this should be going towards getting people closer to God.
You'd be like, I wanted to take my mission trip to Africa.
Yeah.
I want that money. Like, that's fucked up.
I do have to agree with them, though, that we should not be spending it on these type of ways to entertain. So really, this episode is going to be super interesting to, I think, all of you, because when I was prepping for this, I was shocked to find some of this stuff out. So we kind of painted the picture for you guys that, okay, circuses, they're not. No bueno. They're no bueno. Nothing's super ethical about it. But today in this episode, we are going to be talking about one of the most notorious circuses, Shriners Circuses.
Oh, I never heard of them.
So there's a fraternity. It's called Shriners International.
Well, yeah, had me at fraternity. Yeah. Nothing good can come from that.
Well, these people pride themselves on brotherly love, compassion, service to others. They even set up a Shriners Children's Hospital to give donations to help sick children. This Shriners International.
Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag.
And the problem here that we have is there are certain chapters under Shriners International that rent out animals. They hire animal exhibitors to come to their circuses to perform and have the animals perform. And the public is under the impression that the money being raised from these circuses are going to go towards helping sick children.
Yeah, right.
These are people that are Freemasons. You have to be a Freemason to then even join Shriners International. Little culty. These people got temples set up. And what investigations have found is that a lot of these fundraisers and circuses and the money from these circuses were actually going to temple activities.
What the heck are temple activities?
Well, I have here, and this is from the New York Times that did a little expose, that
I'm scared.
Much of the money collected to support the hospitals was commingled, it's an interesting word, with money used for liquor, parties, and members' travel.
Wow. So sounds like a fraternity for sure.
So they're
for sure
abusing animals,
getting drunk,
not giving money to sick children.
What the heck?
And
traveling the world,
partying it up in the temples. I mean, it's really sick. And the New York Times says in their article that more than 57%, this is years ago, but in the article it says more than 57% of the $32 million the Shriners raised in 2005 through circuses, bingo games, raffles, went to the cost of the fraternity. So keeping the temple, liquor cabinets full, and
$32 million.
So only
that's insane.
But here's the catch: only 2% of the Shrine Hospital's operating costs came from the money raised from the shrine temples and member dues. Wow. So you have these people that are saying, come to our circuses, we will help children. And, there's no animal abuse that goes on here because they don't technically own the animals. The animals are not with the shrine
all the time.
The Shriners.
They just rent them out when they go to location.
Well, they hire exhibitors, outside exhibitors, so that they're not responsible for any inspections or fines.
Smart little son of a ding dong.
And then they have the audacity to say that, well, because we just see the animals performing, they're having fun. Nothing wrong goes on here, but they don't know what goes on behind the scenes when the animals are being trained.
Nor do they probably give a shit.
Right. So the shrine started in 1872 in New York City. It was like a social club for Masons, for Freemasons. In 1919, it started building a children's hospital, and they said that their operations would be supported by the Shriners International. Some of their fundraisers and some of their activities would help them to raise money for the hospital. So they pride themselves on, like, this idea that they're giving service to others and that it's full of love. And it's like, well, why are you then abusing animals in the process to do these things?
Right.
And I want to just bring up a quote from their website because this is like super interesting. They say, for over 100 years, the Shriners have sponsored this world famous event with proceeds going to a great cause. They're talking about circus, helping less fortunate children in your community. And that's from the Shrine Circus website. And then a Shriner in Texas, he totally like outed them. He's like, we Shriners don't use 1 penny of this circus revenue for our kids. We use the money from circuses to operate the temples. And this is all on film, by the way.
Did he say it like that too with the country accent?
That's how he talks. And he goes, they do other activities to raise money for the temples, for the children's hospitals. Yeah. And I'm like, you guys can't even get your fucking story straight. Get out of here.
Get your shit together.
Get your shit together. So I got a lot of questions. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I do. I have so many questions.
It's all confusing, and we could go on and on and on about how toxic and abusive circuses are. But
clearly,
in our next segment, we are going to bring on our guest, Annie Gersten. She is the campaign coordinator at PETA in the Animals and Entertainment Division. And we're going to ask her a little bit more about this and how we can help, what are some solutions, and where we're at today when it comes to circuses.
So personally, for me, like a lot of people growing up, I had never really thought about what animals endure in the circus. Right. When I was in college, a circus came to the campus and they were there for several weeks for shows.
Whoa.
And I walked through the parking lot where they were camped out and realized I, had this light bulb moment that the animals were living in confined tiny areas, stuck in a parking lot, and that this must be what their entire lives are like, because this was just one show on a tour and it was weeks of this treatment. So that happened years ago, and this circus thankfully doesn't use animals anymore. But that this still happens in this day and age across our country is something that everyone should care about. And we find that many people are rightfully outraged when they learn more about it. So I'm very excited that you're doing this episode.
Thank you.
Well, what kind of abuse have you seen?
From investigations and whistleblowers, we really have the full picture of the industry's training practices. And like you all had mentioned earlier, all wild animals who are forced to perform in circuses, they spend most of their lives chained or caged. They live under the constant threat of being hit with weapons, electric prods, whips, sharp steel-tipped bull hooks, which are weapons that look like fire pokers with steel tips on the end of them. The trainers at circuses, they exploit the animal's natural desire to not want to feel pain, and they don't even have to beat them during the show because of all of this training. The animals know what those weapons are and they want to avoid it. So they'll do things that they would never do naturally, like perform headstands, jump through rings of fire. The animals specifically used in shrine circuses have been confined to small transport cages with no room to exercise, sometimes no room to stretch to their full height. They've been denied veterinary care. Some have even died.
So when we talk about the abuse, we also have to look at the scale and magnitude of the issue with circuses. So can you talk about the scale and magnitude of it and how and why it's still a big problem today?
This is an industry problem overall. This is true for every circus that uses wild animals, but the shrine circuses, there are over 100 shrine temples across the country, and about half of them still host circuses that use animals. So they're a big contributor. They are supporting these notoriously abusive exhibitors every time they hire them to do shows. In 2023 alone, 46 shrine temples in the US held circuses with wild animals, and those circuses included multiple shows, sometimes multiple cities. So if the Shriners stopped using animals in their circuses, it would really go a long way in relieving some of the suffering that these animals are forced to experience.
So PETA also goes after the exhibitors, not just the shrine circuses. right?
Yes,
You go. Okay.
absolutely. The exhibitors are a target of ours. We have found that there has been a bit more success going after the circuses and urging them to go animal free, because these exhibitors, their whole business model is based on exploiting animals. So of course, we are monitoring them and the citations they receive for violating federal and local laws, submit USDA complaints when it's possible, and we're urging them to send the animals to reputable sanctuaries. But in addition, we are urging the Shriners to stop doing this, because they could stop their circuses that use animals immediately.
Well, I'm kind of confused. I kind of want to know if you know, where is the line? If people are letting the officials know that there's abuse happening, there are deaths happening, it sounds like there's no line.
That's a great question, and I wonder that a lot myself. What has to happen for this to finally end? And I think you all mentioned this earlier and really hit the nail on the head. The USDA and other agencies have a history of taking insufficient action when it comes to animals, and the USDA's own Inspector General has repeatedly condemned the agency's inadequate enforcement of the Animal Welfare Act in formal audit reports. There are just simply too many animal exhibitors for the limited number of inspectors, and even when circuses are cited for blatant and egregious animal welfare violations, they're allowed to remain in business, and that's part of why it's so important for locals to get involved.
Right. So what is PETA trying to do about it? Are there demonstrations, protests, disruptions at circuses? I'd love to see people like just get on to in the ring and hold signs.
That's true.
We should do that.
For sure.
So PETA's campaign against the shrine circuses has two parts. So we're working to get Shriners International, the umbrella organization, to ban the use of animals at all shrine temple circuses, since Shriners International can set bylaws governing the shrines. And at the same time, we are working to get individual shrine temples to end the use of animals at their circuses. We work locally to inform the public about the animals' plight. We ask people not to buy tickets to the circus. We hold demonstrations and protests outside of some of the most notorious shrine circuses, use colorful ad campaigns, really any tactic that we can to raise awareness and stop this from happening.
I think, sorry.
And get money for and wait, what am I saying?
I was gonna say I think the public is not getting the right information because they're not.
They think they're helping kids by going to this.
Yeah, well, they're just not understanding that, like, even though they are not following rules and protocols and animals are being tortured and abused and dying, why would they still go?
So yeah, can you talk a little bit about, maybe we touched on this earlier and maybe I didn't fully explain it, but like, how are the Shriners lying to the public about their donations?
So this one is tricky because a lot of people are confused about the Shriners themselves. When most people think about the Shriners, they'll think of the hats that they wear, parades, and the hospitals, but not necessarily the shrine temples. They will say things like, help us help kids, which people find very confusing. They aren't the same entity, though. So some well-intentioned people might think that attending a circus benefits children, but the ticket sales aren't charitable donations. And it will say this in fine print on the tickets, but often people don't look at the fine print, and the fine print is just confusing. So most local people who are buying tickets to these circuses don't really know that the profits from these are used for operating expenses, like maintaining the club's premises, like you mentioned. And there's just really no reason to do this anymore. There are countless of other ways to fundraise. And you mentioned that the Shriners have other types of fundraisers.
Tell me why some clubs, tell me why some Shriners clubs and chapters are still doing circuses and others are not, and how the ones that are not are making it work and fundraising and It's like, what's stopping the ones that are still using animals from
Right.
just nixing them entirely?
Nothing's stopping them but themselves. Some
They like it.
some shrine clubs never had circuses with animals to begin with. Some have done away with their circuses that use animals and still host circuses, but they're human powered. Some have done away with their circuses altogether. But I think some Shriners might just be resistant to change, and they think that their circuses are traditional, when that's not even really the case. You had mentioned what circuses used to call freak shows. In the past, circus acts exploited and ridiculed humans with disabilities and differences, which is, a callous tradition. We all agree that there's no place for that in a circus now. I'm sure that the Shriners would agree with that as well. And our society is evolving to reject the exploitation of animals. The circus is changing
Right.
all the time. And by not ending the use of animals for the ones who still use them, it is, really looks bad for all of the shrines in general.
Yeah.
And the Shriners will go down in history as one of the last major groups who are just clinging to this abuse for no reason.
Well, what are alternatives? How can what you were bringing up some technologies? Justina painted a picture for us of what a future circus could look like, but what's actually happening now, and what are some circuses that don't use animals called?
There is a growing list of modern and progressive circuses that dazzle their audiences with only willing human performers. And there is a list on PETA.org. So if anyone is looking for a human-only circus in their area, you can go there and find a long list. There is all kinds of new technology out there. Even traditional human-powered acts are very interesting to people, to children.
They're so cool.
Robots.
I don't know about the
Robots,
robots, but people
God.
being, athletic and entertaining and creative.
Tell us
that's
about
really
the
cool.
robots. I want to hear more.
So we actually talked a little bit about Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and they came back last year with a human-powered only show, but they do have a robotic dog named Bailey, and this is an example of a modern circus using robotics. Children love Bailey. I read a recent article where children, after going to one of Ringling's new shows, were asked, would you rather see animals or Bailey? You can only choose one. And all of the children said that they would rather see Bailey.
Sure.
So it's something that would be popular, and there
Right.
are endless alternatives, endless
Right.
technologies we could use.
This just makes me think that it's like, and all the money to feed the animals, to house them, for
Right.
medical bills, which the vet care is atrocious, as we know, but use that money instead to build robots that are like big cats that will jump through the fire hoops, or make a big robotic bear. Like,
Yeah.
use that money to evolve and make new technology for circuses.
Yeah, that would be much, much better.
Or holographics, as you were saying.
I would say holographics more than robots, because then
All right, she hates technology.
in like 1,000 years, then we're gonna be fighting for robot rights.
Okay, great.
But it's
Well,
okay. I'd much rather that than the animals.
Until we get there. So one last question that I have is, what can people do to help today?
So everybody who wants to help can learn more by going to PETA.org. You can even take action online at the click of a button to send a letter to Shriners International leadership and individual shrine temples, urging them to stop using animals. And of course, everyone should help by never buying a ticket to any circus, shrine circus or otherwise, that uses animals.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work that you do as well.
Thank you both so much for having me. It was really great talking to you about this.
I still am trying to wrap my mind around what the shrine is.
Dude, these people wear these like big hats. They think
Show
they're
me a
so
picture.
cool. You want to see a picture of the Shriners?
Yeah, because I'm like, who the fuck are these
Okay.
I'm like, who the fuck? What the fuck?
Okay, here.
How the fuck?
I mean, no offense, but like, why the hats?
Oh, no.
Why these
No.
fucking hats?
No. I am sick of
Sick of
this
your shit.
Wait, where's
Look at them in the cars. What? They do some really weird activities.
Honestly,
I'm sorry.
no judgment on anyone.
No,
but
I am judging them.
What I don't
at this.
understand.
These are grown men in their like 70s that are riding little.
They're just like
cars.
sad little boys.
Well, people should go listen to our episode about veganism and the history of veganism and how it's not anything new, because
Right.
when we talk about religion,
Right.
and hundreds of years ago the world was run by the church,
Right.
religion actually quotes from the Bible, quotes from many religious texts. Do not promote abuse towards animals. It promotes veganism.
Exactly. Thou shalt not kill. Period.
End
It
of
didn't say,
story.
Thou shalt not kill
Done.
only humans.
No, I provided you with plants and seed-bearing fruits, whatever the fuck.
Right.
Okay, animals in circuses, what could go fucking wrong? We've discovered in this
Everything.
episode everything. I didn't even tell you some of these like stories. There was an elephant named Teak in 1994 who broke free from a circus in Hawaii, and she killed her trainer as well. This guy Alan Campbell, who had cocaine and alcohol in his system, and he had been accused of animal abuse in the past. But I just wanted to tell you guys this because this story is freaking crazy. Anyway, Teak, the elephant, went on a rampage in the streets of Hawaii, was probably so afraid, so scared, was running down the street, and then the police shot her dead.
I think I know this story.
And yeah, she inspired several lawsuits, new legislation in Hawaii and abroad, and there were songs paying tribute to her. One example. Another fucking example. There was a major fire that erupted at the Ringling Bros Barnum and Bailey Circus it was years ago, sometime in the 1900s, and it killed over 150 people.
Wow.
And animals, it didn't even say how many animals died in this.
That's
but
so sad.
it's just like, guys,
It's
we
so
can avoid
frustrating.
all of this. We
I
can
know.
avoid. This doesn't need to happen. It's so unnecessary.
I know. Like, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I am not the most athletic person. I am not the healthiest person. I am not a lot of things, but I am definitely compassionate. And I am just like sick of living in a world where people just don't have that. I'm like, I don't want to associate with so many people anymore because I'm like, you don't care.
Right.
What is happening?
Right.
What kind of world are we living in?
Right. Is this what human means? Is this what being human means? Because if it is,
then
I don't want to be
human.
it.
Yeah, I don't associate myself with being human because most of us are horrible. We are horrible, selfish, and completely unwilling to face the truth of our own actions. And it's just like, I'm done.
Dude, this is a topic, like circuses is a topic where it's not like
We don't need this.
We don't need it. It's not like we're coming at you with what you're eating 3 times a day, which
Right.
is a little bit more of a
Horrible.
shift. This is something where we're saying you just don't have to buy a ticket to a circus and support this industry.
Right, come
But
on.
I do, you obviously should change what you're eating 3 times a day too, but
Yeah,
just
but this is
saying,
so easy.
This is so easy to just not support.
Right.
And we are making this episode because we want to give you guys another form of entertainment instead of going to animals. Like, you're listening to this because hopefully it's interesting and entertaining to you, but also we are making this episode to educate, to inspire, and to incite action. And you can hear we're obviously very passionate about this.
Yeah.
But we're very grateful for you guys listening. And you guys know the drill. Please like this podcast, rate it, subscribe to it if you're not already subscribed. We love the comments.
Yes, keep commenting. Please let us know what you want to see on our next episode. We're actually very, very, very engaged right now with what you guys want to know and what you guys want to be educated on. So please write in the comments, share.
Yep, that's how we spread awareness.
Yeah.
And you can check out PETA at PETA on all social platforms, also PETA.org. You can follow me at It's Jamie's Corner.
And you can follow me at Justina.Justina.
And as always, we'll be back.
Oh, yeah, we'll be back.
We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back. We'll be back.